I never imagined my life would spiral the way it did, all because of one night, one decision, and one unexpected face at my door. It all started after I moved into a new apartment, trying to rebuild myself after a rough breakup. I thought this fresh start was exactly what I needed. New space, new energy, and a new job that seemed like the best thing to happen to me in a long time. My boss, Laura, was sharp, successful, and honestly, kind of intimidating. But she was also supportive, always pushing me to grow, and I respected her for that. I never thought of her as anything more than my boss, until things began to feel different. There were small signs at first. She started giving me extra attention, complimenting things that had nothing to do with work. Her texts came in late at night, under the excuse of urgent updates. I didn't think much of it then. I kept it professional, at least I thought I did. Maybe I was just grateful for how she believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. After a long, exhausting week, a few coworkers and I decided to unwind with drinks. I met someone that night, Alex. He was charming, easy to talk to, and for the first time in months, I felt seen. We talked, laughed, and one thing led to another. I thought it was just a fun night, something to forget all the stress I'd been carrying. No expectations. No consequences. Just two adults trying to escape reality for a bit. But the next morning, things didn't feel so light. I woke up to a strange feeling in my gut. It wasn't guilt, at least not the kind that makes you regret, but something was off. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I just needed rest. That's when I heard the knock. I wasn't expecting anyone. I wasn't even fully dressed yet. When I opened the door, my heart nearly stopped. It was Laura. She stood there, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read, half amused, half possessive. I didn't understand why she was at my apartment on a Saturday morning. I didn't understand what she expected. And more importantly, I had no idea what she already knew. That moment changed everything. My job, my privacy, and what I thought I knew about boundaries and trust, it all blurred. I thought I was safe in my own home, in my own choices. But I was wrong. Because from that moment on, I realized my boss wasn't just here to check on me, she was here for something else. And what happened next? I never saw it coming. I stood there frozen, trying to process what I was seeing. Laura didn't say a word at first. She just smiled, that same calm, confident smile she wore in meetings, but this time, it felt different. Personal. I awkwardly stepped aside to let her in, unsure of what else to do. My mind was racing. Did she know about Alex? Was this about work? Or was it something else entirely? She walked in like she belonged there, eyes slowly scanning the room, the empty wine glasses, the faint trace of last night still lingering in the air. I quickly tried to tidy things while pretending like this wasn't the weirdest moment of my life. I asked her why she came by, trying to keep my voice steady. She said she was just checking in since I hadn't responded to her message last night. I hadn't even seen it. My phone was still dead from the night before. But it didn't add up. Laura had never shown up at anyone's home unannounced before, especially not on a weekend. And definitely not like this, wearing casual clothes, no laptop bag, no mention of work. She wasn't here as my boss, she was here as something else. Something I hadn't signed up for. I tried to play it cool, made small talk, acted like I didn't notice the tension in the air. But deep down, I was trying to figure out if I'd crossed a line without realizing it. Had I given her the wrong impression? Or had she just built something up in her head that wasn't even real? Then came the moment that made everything worse. Laura noticed the second toothbrush by the sink. She didn't ask about it. She didn't need to. Her expression changed. Just for a second. But it was enough. The warmth dropped from her face, replaced by something colder. Not angry. Just aware. Like she'd been keeping tabs, waiting for a moment like this. I felt exposed. trapped in my own apartment, unsure of what game was being played. And the worst part? I still didn't know exactly what she wanted. That morning marked the beginning of something I couldn't quite name, a shift, a quiet war of control and confusion. My private life was no longer mine. And my job? Suddenly felt like a ticking clock. What scared me most wasn't what had already happened, but what she might do next. After Laura left that morning, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the door like it might swing open again. I couldn't stop thinking about the way she looked at that toothbrush. She didn't say anything, but her silence spoke louder than words. And now, every interaction with her at work felt different, tighter, like she was pulling invisible strings. At the office, she acted normal on the surface. Same tone, same polite smile, same weekly meetings. But little things started to shift. She started calling me into her office more often, not for anything urgent, just quick chats. She asked about my weekends, my plans, what I was doing after work. Always in a way that sounded casual, but never really was. It felt like she was watching, waiting for me to slip. And no matter how normal I tried to act, I could feel the pressure building under my skin. Meanwhile, things with Alex were getting complicated. He wasn't just a one-night thing anymore. We kept seeing each other, coffee, walks, late-night talks that felt easy and real. But I hadn't told him anything about Laura. I didn't know how. I wasn't even sure what to say. How do you explain to someone that your boss might be crossing lines you're not sure even exist? One night, Alex surprised me at work. He showed up outside the building to walk me home, holding a coffee and smiling like it was the most normal thing in the world. And for a second, it was. Until I noticed Laura watching us from the lobby window. She didn't wave. Didn't smile. She just stood there, still, unreadable, eyes locked on us like she was filing it away. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just in my head. The next day, Laura reassigned me to a different project. No explanation. No warning. Just an email. It seemed harmless on the surface, but the team was smaller, the hours longer, and the deadlines tighter. It felt like a punishment wrapped in professionalism. I couldn't prove it, but I felt it in my gut, this wasn't about work anymore. Every step I took, every move I made outside the office, somehow seemed to echo back to her. Like my life wasn't mine to live anymore. And I still had no idea how far she was willing to go. The days that followed felt like walking on a tightrope with no end in sight. I tried to focus on work, stay professional, and ignore the uneasy feeling crawling under my skin. But Laura wasn't backing off, if anything, she was getting bolder. Her questions got more personal. She'd comment on my appearance, ask if I was seeing anyone special, always with that same calm tone that made it hard to call her out. And every time I tried to set boundaries, she'd find a way to make me feel like I was overreacting. Alex noticed something was off. He kept asking if everything was okay at work, and I kept brushing it off, not knowing how to explain the situation without sounding paranoid. But the truth was, I was afraid. I didn't know how much power Laura really had, or how far she'd go to protect her image, or whatever it was she wanted from me. Then, one evening, I got a message from her. Not through work email. Not even a casual text. It was a voice note. Calm. Soft. She said she missed how things used to be between us. I stared at my phone, numb. Things between us? There was never anything between us. At least, not from my side. I didn't respond. The next morning, my access to one of our main client systems was suddenly revoked. IT said it was a technical glitch. Laura didn't mention it at all. But I knew it wasn't random. I was being cornered, step by step, like she was trying to tighten the grip without leaving any marks. That night, I finally opened up to Alex. I told him everything. He listened quietly, jaw clenched, eyes filled with disbelief and concern. He offered to help, suggested I talk to HR, even go to legal if needed. But I wasn't sure how to prove anything. Laura was too smart, too careful. Everything she did was calculated, just enough to stay below the surface. Then, the final push came. Late one evening, as I was locking up after staying late to finish a deadline, I stepped out into the quiet hallway, and there she was. Laura. Waiting. No words. Just that same look. Only this time, something in her eyes had changed. I didn't know what was about to happen. But I knew, this wasn't about work anymore. The hallway was so quiet I could hear my own breath. Laura didn't move, didn't speak. She just stood there with a strange calmness, like she had rehearsed this moment in her mind 100 times. I tried to steady my voice, asked if everything was okay, pretending like her showing up like this wasn't completely insane. She smiled, not kindly, not coldly, just enough to make my skin crawl. I thought we should talk, she said softly. Without distractions. Every part of me wanted to turn around and walk back into that office, lock the door, and call someone. But I stayed still, trying to appear calm. She stepped closer, her voice low but sharp. I know about him, she whispered. Alex. My heart dropped. I hadn't told her. I hadn't told anyone. The way she said his name, it wasn't casual. It was controlled. Like a card she had been saving. I swallowed hard, forcing a blank expression. There's nothing to know. He's just someone I've been seeing. Laura nodded slowly, then tilted her head. You didn't tell me. That sentence hung in the air like smoke. You didn't tell me. Not as a boss. Not as a friend. But as if I owed her something deeper, something personal. That's when I realized this was never about work. Not anymore. Somewhere along the line, she had convinced herself there was a connection between us, something real. And when that illusion cracked, she didn't let go, she doubled down. I took a step back and told her I needed to leave. She didn't stop me, just watched, like she was cataloging every move. I left the building shaken, thoughts spinning, not knowing if I'd crossed a line or if I was being pulled into one I never agreed to. But the twist came 2 days later. Alex called me in a panic. Someone had reached out to him anonymously, through a burner number, warning him about me. Telling him I was unstable, that I had a history of manipulating people at work. At first, he thought it was a sick joke. But then he showed me the screenshots. Messages, vague but nasty, painting a picture of me that wasn't just false, it was dangerous. And the worst part? The sender knew things. Details that no one else should have known. Only someone from work could have written that. Only Laura. The fear shifted into something deeper. This wasn't just emotional pressure anymore, it was calculated damage. My personal life was now her playground, and she had crossed a boundary I didn't even know existed. But the question that haunted me most wasn't why she was doing this. It was what she planned next. Because now, it felt like she wasn't just trying to get closer. She was trying to ruin me. I knew I had to do something. Staying quiet wasn't protecting me anymore, it was only giving Laura more room to twist the story. I gathered every bit of evidence I had. The voice note. The strange project reassignment. The screenshots from Alex. Every late-night message, every subtle shift at work. I wasn't even sure it would be enough, but I had to try. I set up a meeting with HR. Just walking into that office made my heart race. I kept thinking, what if they don't believe me? What if she's already gotten to them too? But once I started talking, I didn't stop. I told them everything, holding nothing back. For once, I wasn't worried about how it sounded. I was tired of walking on eggshells. To my surprise, the HR rep didn't look shocked. She listened closely, nodded slowly, and then said something I never expected to hear. You're not the first person to come forward about Laura. I froze. It felt like the ground shifted under me. She explained that a former employee, someone I'd never met, had filed a complaint months ago, but backed out before it could go anywhere. No one ever pushed further because there was no proof. But now, with my case and actual records, the messages, the changes in project assignments, the anonymous harassment, they had what they needed to open a formal investigation. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. They put Laura on immediate leave while they launched the review. Her office was cleared out the next day. No warning. No explanation. Just gone. People at work whispered, trying to make sense of it, but no one dared say much out loud. I stayed quiet too. I didn't want to be seen as the one who took her down, I just wanted my peace back. Alex stood by me through everything. He told me he'd had doubts the second those messages came in, but seeing how fast it all escalated made him realize how deep it went. We grew closer through it, not out of fear, but because we knew the cost of staying silent. Weeks passed, and just when I thought it was over, I got one final message. No name. No number. Just one line. She'll be back. My stomach dropped. I didn't know if it was a threat or just someone trying to mess with me. But it reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten. People like Laura don't just disappear. They hide, they wait, and sometimes, they return when you least expect it. The truth is, I thought I was safe the first time too. And I was wrong. After that last anonymous message, I didn't sleep well for days. Every time my phone buzzed or a shadow moved near my door, I felt myself tense up, waiting for her to reappear. But she never did. The investigation moved forward quietly, and eventually, HR confirmed that Laura had officially resigned. No further action, no press, just a quiet exit, the kind companies do when they want to protect their image. It didn't feel like justice, not really. But it felt like freedom. The pressure lifted. I was no longer constantly looking over my shoulder or second-guessing every word I said at work. I could finally focus on what I came to that job for in the first place: growth, stability, a future I could actually build. My name was cleared, my role was restored, and for the first time in months, I started to feel normal again. Alex and I took things slow after everything. What started as something casual had been tested in the most unexpected way. But instead of breaking under the weight of it all, we built something stronger. He saw the worst parts of my story, and he stayed. That, to me, meant more than any perfect beginning ever could. I also learned how important it is to speak up, even when it's terrifying. Because silence can feel safe, but it can also become the very thing that traps you. I thought keeping things to myself would keep the peace. But peace doesn't come from avoiding problems, it comes from facing them. To anyone who's ever felt like their voice doesn't matter, it does. Even if it shakes. Even if it feels small. Telling the truth, standing your ground, and protecting your own story is powerful. It's what got me through. I never got another message after that. Maybe it really was over. Or maybe it was a warning. But either way, I've stopped living in fear. I've moved forward, stronger, more aware, and more protective of my space than ever before. I thought I was safe. I wasn't. But I learned how to make myself safe again, on my own terms. And that's the part of the story I choose to carry forward. 37.